What up, Pittsburgh Steel fans? Welcome to another episode of Steelers Touchdown Under. I'm Matty P. We are talking day three. That's right, day three draft picks to watch at the NFL Combine, which kicks off this afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. This video will go out probably about 7 a.m. Eastern Time. So a matter of 8 hours time, linebackers kick off with drills at the Combine. Can't wait. We are in full draft season, everyone. Full draft season. It is awesome. All right, so we've talked. I said I'd do top 75 players across 3 days to watch at the Combine. You know what? I was whittling day three down, and I kind of thought 75 was what I did last year, and 75 is easier than 60. Well, I've got you 60. I've cut it back. The reason why I cut it back is because there's a couple of players that I think stretch across day two, day three, and I'm really locked in on a number of different positions, and I'm locked in on more prospects at certain positions than others. Maybe after the Combine, we look at top 75 going into the draft, but I'm kind of narrowing down this year, top 60. It's harder to narrow than it is to extend. You can put more prospects. I can go, look, these guys are all in my top 90, blah, 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 or top 100. No, it's hard to say, actually, Steelers draft a guy in my top 60. So I'm going for broke. Let's try top 60. We've got the day three guys. Now, there are going to be more picks that I talk you through on today's show versus the last few days. We had 9 to 10 guys in the day one picks to consider and watch at the Combine. Then we had about 29 guys that I talked about on yesterday's show, the day two guys. I'll link that in right here, so you can go back and watch that as well. Now it gets to day three. Now we're talking about 34 guys. The majority of guys on my list, there's about another, yeah. So there's these guys that are coming into play. So it's kind of interesting. Now let's kick it off with the defensive guys. I've started with offense yesterday. Let's go defense, day three guys. So defensive line, defensive tackle. We've got a number of blokes here. We've got Keith Randolph Jr. out of Illinois. He had a really interesting season. He's near Newton, who's probably one of the top D-line prospects in this draft, along with Byron Murphy. So I'm interested to see what Keith Randolph Jr. can do and sort of push his draft stock up beyond the 5th or 4th round. Then we've got Mason Smith out of LSU. He could be a really interesting guy late for the Steelers. Again, LSU didn't have a great season, so he kind of flies under the radar. You've got Evan Anderson, who had a really good East-West Shrine Bowl. He's going to rocket up the boards at the Combine. You watch with the testing out of FAU. So he's on my list to watch because I do think he'll make an impact. And then you got Tyler Davis out of Clemson. Pretty standard guy, 3rd, 4th round, maybe even slips to the 5th. A guy that went to the Senior Bowl, a guy that kind of a lot of people are familiar with, but could just be real value. But we need to see him test to prove that. Yes, I've got a punter in there. Tory Taylor out of Iowa. He's the big punter. He's the Ray Guy Award winner. Why have I got him on defense? Well, I think punting is more of a defensive thing than an offensive thing, and I didn't want to have a separate special teams out. So Tory Taylor's in there. He'd be a 7th round draft pick for the Steelers. Any higher, I kind of don't like it. But let's see what a big boot he's got. Let's see how much of a leg he's got at the Combine. That is why he's on this list. Then you've got the safeties on this list. Now, we talked a lot about different safeties yesterday. A new name was thrown to me on a different channel. I did appear on Steel Curtain Network's Pump Your Brakes show, and Big G told me about Newbin. I didn't really have a lot of detail on Newbin, apart from what I've seen on stat sheets. So that he probably works his way into day two. But we've got some safety guys here. Cole Bishop out of Utah. I don't have a day 1 or 2 grade on him. Or if it's day 2, it's late, slips to day 3. That's why I'm interested to see how he tests. You've got Trey Taylor out of Army. He's a really interesting prospect, probably the 5th or 6th round, probably more like the 6th. Keita Oldapo, he is a safety that marks up against tight ends. That is why I was on my list for Steelers. Can he show what he can do in coverage? That's what I'm keen. How does he test? Could be an interesting guy late. It's probably about 210 to 218 pound. Then you got linebackers out there as well. We do have guys in Tyrese Knight, Jalen Ford, Cedric Gray at linebacker, Tommy Eichenberg as well. I have just noticed this wide receiver Ricky Pierce was meant to be on the next slide, but that's all right. So they're the linebackers that are on this list. And then we've got a couple of corners in Kyrie Jackson, who's getting a lot of attention out of Oregon. You've also got Chow Smith-Wade, who had a decent Senior Bowl, same as Max Milton, was in a lot of the highlight photos. Players that play well do end up in these highlight photos when you go back and look. That was kind of interesting. And you got Shaquan Shepard out of Maryland. It's always a wonder about Maryland when you're talking about Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's why he's on this list. But they're the defensive guys. So again, in the comments, let me know. Do any of these names ring a bell for you? Do any of these names look good for you? Oh, and how could I forget? Quickly, Gabe Hall out of Baylor, 3-4 defensive lineman. Won't fit a 4-3. That's going to affect his draft stock. but I want to watch him up against and how he tests against some of the better DTs in the class. He could be a real steal late for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they're the guys. But yeah, let me know in the comments, who do you like out of this lot? Who do you not like? Who are new names? Who are not? As I say, Evan Anderson is a big sleeper right now in the draft process. So let's see how he tests at the combine. All right, we will now go into offensive guard now. Obviously, I had Ricky Pearsall on the other side. He's meant to be on this side, wide receiver out of Florida. So he should be on this list. Other wide receivers on this list are Bud Means out of Pittsburgh. I've got him there because I kind of like the height and blocking. Is this guy a late round 50%, 60% producer of Malachi Corley, who I have early day 2 draft grade on? Let's see. You got Roman Wilson out of Michigan. Now, he could test out the charts. People are saying he could run it in the 4.3s. If that's the case, he's probably not a day 3 guy. But if you look at it overall, I think he's a guy that slips to the top of day 3 if the draft has runs at certain positions, particularly if there's a lot of wide receivers taken in the first and second round. I think then the third round teams will have to make up other positions. So I've got Roman Wilson on this page. He could easily be a day 2 pick, probably will be. But that's why I've got him here. That's the background. Johnny Wilson as well, 6'7" guy out of Florida State. Hey, you can't not put him on the list. I'm excited to watch him. I almost didn't have him, and I had to take a defensive guy out to put him on this list. But I am excited to watch him. So there we go. Then you got Eric All and Theo Johnson, tight ends. Eric All is someone I think can get quite late. Theo Johnson, I think they're going to have to spend one of their 4th round draft picks. I think it's 120, 121 on them. Christian Jones, I had him on day 2 because I think he can test and put himself in the day 2 mix. But right now he's probably sitting at a day 3 player. So that's why he's sitting where he's sitting. Other tackle, Matt Goncalves out of, I haven't said his name before verbally, so I forgot it right. And Calvez, the offensive tackle out of Pittsburgh as well. He's there, so that's kind of an interesting guy. I want to see him test. Obviously, so a lot of Steel fans might be familiar with him, given that he did go to Pittsburgh University, but I'm keen to see what he does at the testing against the other guys. How does he shape up? How does he compare? Then you've also got other linemen. You've got Matt Lee, the offensive lineman, but really a center who the Steelers have already interviewed out of Florida. He's going to be quite a late round pick in this year's draft. Keen to see what he can do. Layden Robinson, the offensive guard out of Texas A&M. I thought he'd have a higher draft stock, but he doesn't. And I've got Zach Zinter there. Because when I look at Michigan football, I looked at all of their stuff during the season. When you look at the holes the Blake Corum runs down, Zinter seems to be in the mix. And when guys show up in the mix on highlights on tape, not just highlights, general tape, general plays, you're seeing their name a lot. Unless you're not able to pinpoint what they're doing terribly wrong, usually it kind of leads to being something right. I like to be the optimist. I like to be the positivity in life. Zach Zinter interests me in how he tests compared to other guys in his position. Same as Andrew Rain out of Oklahoma. He's there as well. So they're kind of the offensive linemen. I then have 3 quarterbacks in Michael Pratt, Sam Hartman, and Joe Milton. Now, Michael Pratt I had on the day 2, guys. He could well get drafted in day 2, depending on the run on quarterbacks. But if he slips to day 3, you got to get him early. You got to trade up to get the guy. But Sam Hartman and Joe Milton, they're guys I'm interested to sort of see where they fall on the quarterback list. Particularly Hartman's a really experienced guy. That whole idea of getting a Brock Purdy type, played a lot of football. That Sam Hartman played, I think it's 5 seasons at Wake Forest before he transferred to Notre Dame. Didn't have the season he probably hoped for at Notre Dame, but they didn't have a great season either. So, I'm interested to see what he does at the combine for that reason. How does he test compared to the top-end quarterbacks? Because the guy can throw the football. And then the final guy on this list is a running back. Yes, a running back. Ray Davis out of Kentucky, probably about 6'2", 215 pounds. He can be a really interesting guy. There's a lot of running backs jostling for the top spot right now. It's not a great running back class, but as Daniel Jeremiah said on a recent podcast, it's kind of the one where all the teams are probably going to play chicken with each other through day 2, and then when one of them takes a running back, there's going to be a heap off the board. Why do I have a running back here? Well, what if the Steelers don't plan on picking up Najee Harris's 5th-year option? What if Ray Davis slips and they got a high grade on him? Then you go get him. He's probably closer to a Jalen Warren than a Najee Harris, so that kind of fits because this O-line, I've been saying it for almost 12 months now, is built more for a Jalen Warren running back than a Najee Harris back. Go get a Najee Harris type back. Ray Davis also offers some good pass ability, catching ability at running back. One of the profiles I read him says he needs to work on his pass blocking, so that will be an area the Steelers will want from him. But look at what Jalen Warren does. Look at what some of the blocking skills they can teach players. Look at also Eddie Faulkner and what he's done with the running back position. I think Ray Davis could be an interesting pick for the Steelers in the 4th or 5th round. If he gets there. But hey, that's my offensive players for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you like any of these guys? Who are the names that speak out to you? Again, like the defensive guys, let me know in the comments. Really keen to find out who Steeler Nation's feeling about, what they're feeling about in terms of, do you like guys? Do you not like guys? Are you interested in this guy? You're not? Is this guy testing off the charts? Do you think it means nothing? Do you think the combine means nothing? Are you only keen on pro days? All that, I love that discussion. We're having some great discussion in the comments section, and I just want to keep encouraging that. But the combine's going to be super interesting over the next 4 days. And so all we can do is basically cheer on some of these prospects, see if they fit the Steelers. The Steelers have a bunch of needs. That's why it's a really interesting draft class as well. There's lots of guys sprinkled all over the different rounds with the talent. And hopefully they make this, whoever the Steelers draft is obviously going to hopefully make the Steelers better in 2024. I'm Matty P. As always, go Steelers.